There is a cruel truth most people learn too late. People rarely leave you the day they say goodbye. They leave in fragments. In delayed replies. In colder eyes. In conversations that suddenly feel like labor. In the strange moment when you realize the person beside you is already gone, but their body is still there. And in a world built on performance, this becomes even harder to see. Because modern people know how to pretend. They know how to keep the relationship looking alive long after the feeling has died. They will still text, "Good morning." Still sit across from you at dinner. Still call you, "babe," with a mouth that no longer means it. That is what makes this kind of loss so disorienting. You are not grieving an ending. You are grieving a slow disappearance no one wants to name. If you have felt that shift lately, if something in your chest has been whispering that the bond is changing, this video will help you see it clearly. We are going to walk through the 6 things people almost always do when love begins to die, not in theory, but in the small human moments where truth leaks out. And by the end, I want to show you something even more important: how to meet that truth without begging, without breaking, and without losing your dignity trying to keep someone who has already started drifting away. Because the greatest mistake is not that someone stopped loving you. The greatest mistake is sacrificing your self-respect trying to convince them to start again. Let's begin. 1. They become emotionally distant. This is usually the first fracture. Not betrayal. Not a dramatic argument. Distance. Once, you could feel them. Even silence between you felt full. You did not need constant words because the connection itself carried weight. There was warmth in the way they looked at you, listened to you, remembered the little things. A long day ended with conversation that felt safe. Even when life was hard, you still felt chosen. Then something changes. Their replies become thinner. Their attention weakens. They are in the room, but not with you. You speak, and it feels like your words are landing on glass. They nod, but their eyes are somewhere else. You tell yourself they are tired, stressed, distracted, overwhelmed. And maybe at first, that is true. But when emotional absence becomes a pattern, it is no longer a mood. It is a message. This is where many people betray themselves. They feel the distance, but instead of facing it, they chase harder. They become sweeter, quieter, more accommodating. They offer more patience, more understanding, more emotional labor, hoping warmth will return if they just love correctly enough. But Stoicism teaches something most people resist: not everything can be repaired by effort. Marcus Aurelius reminds us to accept reality before we decorate it with fantasy. And reality is this: when someone begins to withdraw emotionally, your job is not to perform harder for their affection. Your job is to observe. Because love that is alive does not make you feel like you are auditioning to be kept. 2. They start keeping secrets. Love breathes through openness. Not perfection. Not constant agreement. Openness. When someone loves you, they do not build a second world where you are no longer welcome. But when love begins to fade, privacy slowly turns into concealment. It often starts with small things. They angle the phone away. They answer simple questions with vague language. You ask how their day went, and they give you almost nothing. You notice pieces missing from the story. A changed tone. A defensive reaction where there used to be ease. A strange distance that feels less like independence and more like exclusion. Now you are not only unloved. You are uninformed. And that feeling is brutal, because it forces you into a humiliating state. You begin to investigate the person you once felt safest with. This is one of the most psychologically exhausting stages of a dying relationship. Not because secrets always mean betrayal in the obvious sense, but because secrecy destroys emotional certainty. It makes you question your instincts. It turns love into surveillance. It makes you live with your nervous system on alert. A Stoic mindset refuses that humiliation. You do not have to become a detective to prove what your spirit already knows. If someone consistently chooses concealment over honesty, let that reveal their character. Do not lose your peace trying to drag truth out of a closed mouth. The Machiavellian lesson beneath this is uncomfortable, but real. People often hide what no longer serves the image they want to maintain. And society rewards image. It rewards looking loyal more than being loyal. That is why appearances can deceive for so long. But truth always leaks through behavior. Always. 3. They stop prioritizing you. There was a time when they made room for you naturally. Not because life was easy, but because you mattered. People create time for what lives in their heart. That is one of the oldest truths in human relationships. Then the rhythm changes. You begin waiting longer for replies. Plans become uncertain. Your conversations start feeling like something they squeeze in between everything else. You notice that strangers, co-workers, hobbies, endless scrolling, and random distractions all seem easier for them to give energy to than you. This is where people often lie to themselves the most. They say, they're just busy. And yes, adults are busy. Life is demanding. But there is a difference between being busy and being consistently deprioritized. One feels temporary. The other feels personal. You start making excuses on their behalf because the alternative is painful. You do not want to admit that the person you would rearrange your day for is now treating you like an optional task. Seneca warned that time is the one thing we never recover. So if someone repeatedly teaches you that your presence can wait, believe the lesson. Do not beg for scraps of attention and call that love. Real love does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks simple. A call returned. A question asked. A plan honored. A message sent without making you feel like you interrupted their life by existing in it. If you are always the one understanding, adjusting, and waiting, you are not in mutual love anymore. You are in emotional debt. 4. They start picking fights over small things. This is where fading love often becomes aggressive. At first, it may seem small. A sharper tone. A joke taken the wrong way. An irritated response to something that never used to matter. Then more tension appears. You begin to feel like every conversation has a hidden trap inside it. The atmosphere changes. You are no longer speaking freely. You are managing the room. Why does this happen? Because when someone's heart begins leaving, the mind often looks for reasons to justify the retreat. Conflict becomes a convenient story. If they can make you the problem, they no longer have to confront the truth that their feelings changed. This is one of the oldest psychological evasions in human behavior. Suddenly the habits they once found charming become annoying. Your questions feel intrusive. Your emotions become too much. Your needs become drama. And the more confused you become, the calmer they feel, because now the relationship's decline has a villain. You. But not every accusation is revelation. Sometimes it is simply emotional exit strategy. Stoicism helps here by separating event from interpretation. Do not get lost in every argument. Look at the pattern underneath it. Is this really about the dishes, the timing, the wording, the tone? Or is someone manufacturing friction because they no longer have the courage to tell the truth cleanly? Do not waste yourself trying to win every small battle in a relationship already losing its soul. 5. They stop sharing their life with you. This one is quiet. And because it is quiet, it often cuts the deepest. There was a time when you knew the texture of their days. What irritated them? What made them laugh? What they were hoping for? What they feared? You were part of the inner world, not just the public one. Then one day, without announcement, the door starts closing. You find out things late. Or from social media. Or from someone else. You realize they no longer bring you their thoughts in real time. No random updates. No unnecessary sharing. No reaching for you just because you are home to them. And that is the part that hurts most. Not the silence itself, but what it means. When someone stops sharing their life with you, they are often rehearsing life without you. Many people feel this happening in panic. They ask more questions. Push harder. Try to reopen intimacy through pressure. But forced closeness never creates real closeness. It only reveals the distance more clearly. Epictetus teaches us not to demand that life unfold according to our desire. The mature response is not to cling tighter when someone withdraws. It is to see the withdrawal for what it is. The wrong question is, why won't they open up to me anymore? The deeper question is, why am I trying so hard to stay emotionally available to someone who has already started closing the gate? That question is painful. But it is honest. And honesty heals faster than illusion. 6. They become easily annoyed by your existence. This is often the final and most brutal sign. The way you speak bothers them. The stories you tell bother them. Your jokes no longer land. Your presence feels to them like pressure. You can sense it in their sighs, their face, their impatience, the way your smallest habits now seem to provoke irritation. This is devastating because it rewrites memory in real time. The same parts of you they once found endearing now appear to irritate them. And if you are not careful, you begin to turn against yourself. You start editing your personality. Speaking less. Asking for less. Trying to become easier to love. That is the moment many people lose themselves. Listen carefully. When someone is chronically irritated by your presence, that is not a cue to shrink. It is a cue to see clearly. People change. Feelings change. Attachment changes. That does not make you worthless. It makes the relationship no longer right. Seneca's wisdom points us back to dignity. Do not remain where your spirit is repeatedly made to feel unwelcome. Love is not supposed to feel like you are apologizing for your existence. The right person may not agree with you every day. They may not be perfect. But they will not make you feel like your humanity is a burden they are forced to tolerate. And when someone does, the strongest move is not protest. It is release. So let's bring the truth into one clear frame. When someone begins losing love for you, they usually reveal it first through behavior. They become emotionally distant. They begin keeping secrets. They stop prioritizing you. They create conflict over small things. They stop sharing their inner world. And eventually, they become irritated by the very presence they once cherished. None of this is easy to accept. Especially when you still love them. Especially when part of you keeps hoping this is just a phase. Especially when you remember who they used to be. But Stoicism asks for courage before comfort. It asks you to stop bargaining with evidence. To stop dressing up rejection as confusion. To stop calling emotional starvation patience. If this is happening in your life, I want to say something plainly. You do not need to hate them. You do not need revenge. You do not need to collapse. But you do need clarity. Because losing someone who no longer loves you is painful. Losing yourself while trying to keep them is catastrophic. Your worth was never meant to be measured by another person's fading affection. And the moment you understand that, their withdrawal stops being a sentence on your value and becomes what it really is, information. Take the information. Keep your dignity. And walk forward without begging for what should have been given freely. If this spoke to something you've been carrying in silence, let it stay with you for a while. And if you've lived through this kind of slow disappearance, share your experience in the comments. Not as a performance. As truth. Because sometimes the strongest thing we can do is finally name what happened. If this video gave you clarity, subscribe for more reflections on Stoicism, power, self-respect, and the quiet discipline it takes to survive a world built on masks. Stay calm. Stay sharp. And above all, do not chase what has already decided to leave.